Hi, my name is Mark, and we have,
Pritam.
and we're going to talk about going the distance. I think so. The important question being, everyone talks about how to prepare your motorcycle, etc., which is important. But what do you think a mindset prep should be before you go such distances?
The first thing for a rider or for any motorcyclist is to think that how far he can go and how far he can sustain. So because the very important thing or everyone talks about it is fatigue on motorcycles when you're doing good kilometers. So the first thing that you need to have is a good sleep before you start the ride, and then plan your ride accordingly. That how far, if you have a 400 kilometers ride, then how oftenly will you take the breaks, and by taking the breaks you also relax yourself and then continue and do a safe journey. That's the good first mindset that you have to prepare for. So yeah, that's how I make my plans and how I ride my motorcycle when I'm on a long tours. I do good distances in the first half, and then take smaller, and do smaller distances and take more breaks after that, and that's
So,
how I
I
do
mean,
safely.
since you said that, so say if someone like me, I don't really like riding long distances. I just cap off at like 300 kilometers and I'm kind of done. So if say someone wants to start going further with his motorcycle, say have a 600-kilometer journey, so what should one start with?
No one can do a long distance ride on their first time, right? So I have never done like good 500, 600 kilometers on my first ride of my life. When I came into riding, I started doing smaller kilometers. I tried extending it on every ride. That's how I knew that how far I can push myself. I cannot just directly go ahead and take the seventh step when there are more six steps below. So धीरे धीरे, one by one, you do one ride for 100 kilometers. You know how far you can go, how tired you were on that 100 kilometers. Then on next time you do 200 kilometers or 150 kilometers, and that's how you keep doing it day by day. Every time by time you get experience, and that's how you come to know that okay, I can do good 600
So
kilometers.
it's not advisable like you just go out, like for example, if I've not done this before, I've just joined a riding group and we're going for like say an IBW. On the first instance, obviously if you have a group there is a little comfort, but do you think then the fatigue of keeping up, etc., will kick in?
Yes. So being a first timer, yes, though if you have, you're riding with the group, that group would consist of people who are well experienced. They know the right time, they will help you. You can go ahead and do a ride of 600 kilometers. For example, you're doing IBW for 600 kilometers for the first time, because you'll not go alone. It's not preferable that you go alone for the first time,
First time.
because if you do that you might get afraid. You might get your fatigue, because you don't know how to do it. You might think, okay, all I have to do is put on the key, self it, and just
Just
pull
go.
the throttle and just
I
go.
think
But
so. It's
that's
more
not
of
how
a
it
mental
happens.
mindset that you have. Ki, oh, I've got to cover this distance. How do I plan it out? So, like, my next question would be around this is, how's your mental prep in terms of I've started the ride now and I'm going to cover 600 kilometers in so much time. So, what's my first stint going to be versus my second versus my third? So, how do I put out my brakes? Is my first brake uh, after a long time because I'm fresh and then I do small patches, or is it like, I space it out 100 kilometers each? How do you plan it?
So I basically plan my ride for like first half. I'll try to cover distances because I'm fresh, I'm energetic, my body's not tired, so I cover it up with that. And then between that transition, or between that kilometers, if there is a light transition, I'll take a halt. I do not take transition. For an example, if I started a ride by morning for 4 a.m. and about 6 it's about to get sunrise, so I make sure I stop it, because that transition would make me feel like sleepy, because my eyes would go smaller. They'll open very minimal, and that's how it hits, because there's a sunrise, bright sunrise coming into your eyes. You try to close it because you're trying to protect yourself. So yeah, so I take breaks like that. Apart from that, the kilometers at the end of the destiny or the end of the destination, I take shorter distances and I take more frequent breaks, and that's how I reach safe. So that's my plan.
So you planned your breaks. Now, how much is too many breaks or how many is too less breaks? So I think so planning in terms of food. Say a lot of people have this thing ki, okay, I'll eat proper food, I'll take a break, I'll sleep somewhere for half an hour and then I'll start again. Or some people say I'll just have a protein bar. Some people say I just have sutta and something to eat and I just move on. So what do you think works for you in terms of, okay, I'll stop now, I need to hydrate myself and get some energy in my body. So what's your strategy in those times?
My first strategy whenever I start is like to make sure that I reach. I set a time for myself. So if I put it on the map, it says me that okay, for doing from here to IWW, it's
Okay,
gonna take like good 12 hours on a motorcycle,
understood.
right? So that's a continuous time. So
Time,
if you
true.
keep traveling continuously without any halt, that's what the time it shows.
Understood.
So if you take breaks, it's gonna add on to that time, right?
Obviously, yes.
And that's also on an average speed of 60. That's what the Google shows you.
Shows you.
What I plan is basically I'll do if it is a 600 kilometers ride, I'll do a break of like 200 kilometers, 200 kilometers. Then I might do 100 and 100 and I'll reach. That's my plan. And apart from that, eating on those breaks is I make sure that I do not overeat myself or I overhydrate myself because both of them is gonna make you stop for taking it out of your body
Yep, true.
some part of the time because having heavy bladder and then you're taking potholes or something like that, it's like a bad pain when you take that jerks. So yeah, I do not overeat. I eat sufficient enough, like almost 20-30% of my stomach, and then I continue. And I also have minimum drink so that I can. And when it comes to drink, I have a little, maybe a gulp or two of water and a coffee for caffeine, and that's it.
And I think in terms of when you ride such distances, uh, carrying your luggage, etc., how do you plan that out in terms of, uh, I need to carry a pillion, plus I have luggage, plus I need like lights, etc. So when you get the motorcycle, is it like a pre-planned thing that this is what I'm going to get?
My primary things or my primary needs on a tour is light setup for which I have auxiliary lamps, and for my luggages I have a saddle stay and a top rack, and that's what I always carry with myself because that helps my luggage to be mounted well behind my motorcycle. And I don't have to carry it or my pillion has to carry it on their shoulders because obviously you're doing
The
good
distance. True.
600 400
I
kilometers.
think so. I should ask this question before I ask you now. So usually people before they go for a tour or something, they feel like, oh, I should get a motorcycle for touring rather than figuring out I have a motorcycle and I just want to ride. I mean, it's motorcycling, you just ride.
Yeah. My motorcycle that I have and that I use for daily commuting cannot be used for touring, which is a very wrong thought. Both motorcycles can run on the roads and both motorcycles can do good kilometers.
Fair.
People have a very skeptical fear that my engine might burst out because it cannot do that many kilometers, which is a very bad thought. It's a like kind of myth. Engines are made, they have been tested very well, though lower capacity or a higher capacity motorcycle, it really doesn't matter. They are all tested in a very extreme conditions. So yeah, your motorcycle, though it is a smaller motorcycle and you think that you want a tour, you can prepare that motorcycle for tour.
Understood.
Only put limited stuff that is needed. Don't overdo it. Like what people nowadays they do, or I would say today's trend is more of showcasing and rather than having stuff that is only needed. It's all that people should, praise me for what I have because I have too many things and people will praise me. That's the wrong thing.
I think also in terms of speed, your ideal touring speed, there's not too much of a difference between a bigger motorcycle and a smaller motorcycle. I think so. The speed to be safe on the highway and cover the distance is somewhere between 80 kilometers an hour, and I'm just saying on the higher side, 120 kilometers an hour.
Yeah,
Okay.
depends.
Yeah, it depends completely on what road, where you are, but the delta is too much, isn't so much. So even if you're on a smaller capacity motorcycle, you cover the same distance, probably half an hour of a difference.
Yeah, maybe half an hour or maybe we can consider 1 hour more as well. But it depends, right? Because if I'm riding a 150 segment, I could hardly go up to 100 or 110 kmph, right? If I have a 400 segment, I can go almost around 150 160. But then you're not going to use it all the time.
True.
The basic time or the basic speed to tour is between 80 to 90 average on an highway because we have highways, some part of the highway you go 100 some part of the highways you go 60 70s. So on an average you come end up somewhere around 80 to 90. But the problem with touring that people usually mess it up with is like going high speeds, because what I believe, and I believe you'll agree to it as well, more more speedy you go, more exertion you do,
True.
because your heart's beating very fast, and you're exerting too much of out of your body. So
I think so. The
it's
concentration level also, no, your brain is focusing that much
true.
harder to focus on the road and the surroundings around you.
Correct.
So your fatigue is not maybe not physical but more mental, and I
Correct.
think that's also drains you out completely.
Drains you out, right? That does. It's also, start of the fatigue. You're exerting yourself. It's where the fatigue will start, right? So going high speeds on tours is not what we can suggest anyone. So it's okay to keep between that. 80 to 90 is like a very good nimble cruising speed. You're on your top gear. You're on an average of 4,000 to 5,000 RPM on a top gear, because I can do on my 250 if I'm on my fifth gear and I want to do 80 90, 4 to 5,000 RPM is enough.
Just
The bike is not grunty, it's nimble, you can just keep going. And when it is an open road, but when you need, okay, there is, you want to have fun, a little more fun on speed, you can go for a while, then get back to the speed. That's how you can enjoy.
and also remember you mentioning uh, when you're going the distance, obviously your body takes a lot of toll in terms of you know you get cramped up, etc. So how do you deal with that? Do you like completely stop and stretch, or you just stretch on the motorcycle? How does that work?
So again, so for me, what I do is, if I think that I need a break because I need to eat something, that's what I cannot do on my motorcycle. But I think that I'm just tired because my butts are sore, my back's paining, or my shoulders are cramped up. What I can do is I can just saddle on my motorcycle, go on a very slow speed of 30 to 40 for like at least 5 to 10 minutes on the motorcycle, stretch my legs while I'm going on that low speed on the extreme, safe zone of the road, which is like a third or the fourth lane. You can do that. So by doing that, your body gets relaxed, and then you can continue with the journey.
Understood.
That's what I do. Until and unless I need something to eat or drink, I don't take the breaks. If there is a pain or something like that, which is not bad enough, like you have a cramp, which is already, your muscles are already holded up, then obviously you'll have to take a break and stretch a bit. But yeah, it is just a small pain that is about to start. You can do a stretching on your motorcycle saddle, stand on your motorcycle, go explore, look around, and then your body gets relaxed, and then sit on your motorcycle, get back to your old 80 to 90 speed, continue your journey.
And in terms of say, when I prep my motorcycle, I mean you have a lot of protection parts. Specifically, I'm talking about fog lamps. So if you say you're doing night riding, so there's a lot of myth about, oh, this is banned, it's not banned. So what is it exactly? How do you work with the fog lamps?
Talking about the fog lamps, being in Maharashtra, it's not that bad. But again, there's a way to mount it. You cannot mount it over your headlamps. The original headlamp setup, you cannot mount it above it. You'll have to keep below it if you're adding extra lights. And you also have to make sure you have to do study about ये state में there is a problem, in this state there is okay, in this state this is what they follow. So for example, in Mumbai, Maharashtra, it's okay, you can mount it, but you cannot use it in the streets, you can use it on the highways. But if you want to go towards Karnataka, they like completely do not agree with mounting an aux lamp. So what we do basically is, before entering the borders, tape the entire aux lamps and don't use it at all. Tape it up and say them, okay, we are not using it here, but we can use it in our state, like that. You can say that, okay, we are not using in the streets, but we are only using it on the highways because it's pitch dark, there's no street lights, nothing like that. So that's when we need it. So we can convince it. We don't have to be rebellious about it, but you can agree with them. Okay, I wouldn't. You say don't use it, I wouldn't use it.
Fair enough. And also, say you're doing night riding. Is it something different that you do from your normal riding in terms of okay being vigilant? Because there's a certain particular throw that your motorcycle light has, and
Correct.
you're traveling at a particular speed. So there is limited view in terms of what's coming in my way.
Definitely. Definitely, when there is a two-lane road and without any divider between those roads, obviously there's gonna be upper headlamps coming right in front of you.
Front of it.
The cars, there's trucks coming with upper lights on it. वो हमेशा आग पे लगता ही है. So all you can do is be on the safer side, ride a safe speed, don't go high speed, because if there is a flash of light, there is a fraction of second that you cannot see anything.
See, yeah, true. You're just blanked out.
It just blanked out or white out, I would rather say. So in that way, if you're riding in night, I do is I ride between 60 to 70 to be on a safer side. If it is a big road and I can see at least good 500, 400 meters, I can see clearly. I can go above 80, 90, or 100. But if I cannot see, I'll have to make sure I'm on a good speed so that I can control if something comes up.
And I mean, you also make your own saddle stays, etc., etc. Right
Correct.
now. So when you got your motorcycle, like you had a 150 earlier, now you have a 250. So what did you plan? Like when you got the motorcycle, I'm sure you're using one motorcycle for your daily commute as well, for your weekend as well, and for your touring purposes as
Everything,
well.
one for everything.
So is there a particular, like set that you made for yourself? Say you made a top rack that you're going to use, which is going to be like a permanent fixture, or is it something that you have like a removable? I will remove this when I'm in the city, and I'll put this when I'm going for rides, or it's like some things that need to be at there on my bike at all times, or is it like a flexible setup? Yeah.
So what I have is a fog lamp setup
Okay.
and a saddle stay top rack setup.
Okay.
That's it for my touring.
Okay.
Fog lamp only when I'm on my tours. That is
Understood.
the only time that I use. I have kept it the way it is. I've never taken it off. About my saddle stay, I do take it off oftenly when I feel like I take it off. But because I use a top box for my daily commute as well, for my
Understood.
daily work, I need a top box. So that's why I have to keep my saddle stay. But it is removable as well.
As well.
But my saddle stay is always mounted. So that's the only two things that I use for my touring, and that is sufficient enough. I don't
Right.
have an engine guard or something like that, but that two things are enough.
I think next thing I would want to ask you would be um, the journey. Like, what is it about when you pit yourself against like a saddle sore? You've done a saddle sore. So, like, what's your mindset? Do you want to just go out there, enjoy, or is there like this pressure that you have to cover this distance in that time or not make it? What's the feeling? What's the idea behind it?
Before I answer this, the biggest part of doing big kilometers is always known as touring. If you do anything more than 500 kilometers, people would call it as okay, you toured there, right? You went for touring. But the biggest aspect of touring is like if you're going a destination, you have chose a destination to enjoy it. You chose a mode of motorcycle because you want to enjoy the environment, the nature around it, and see people around it, see habitat around it. So you want to go normal. When it comes to Ironbutt, it is not touring. It is an endurance adventure or an endurance what do you call it?
Like a sport.
Sport. An
Yeah.
endurance sport,
Sport.
right? And you have a time limit, so you cannot do all this. So with that mindset, I would rather say Ironbutt is not a topic that is talked about right now, but it was talked about earlier back in 2015 when I remember I was introduced to this community of motorcycling or riding or touring. That is when people should talk a lot about it, and I was like new to it, and I had this thought that I want to do this one time, but I was also afraid, like you said, the first timers, can I do 500? I was afraid about it. 500 like too much for me. Nowadays 500 is like okay, 500 we can do it, manageable. So I had this thought, but I was afraid. So for to prepare for it, I took good 5 years
Wow.
because I was not ready. Every year I used to think about it. Okay, can I do can I do an iron bird right now? Then I used to think about my last rides. Then I thought, okay, in the last ride, this ride, when I did 400 kilometers, this is what the problems I faced. When I did 1,000 kilometers, this is what when I did Mumbai to Bangalore, I know what problems I faced. So there were a lot many stuff behind it. The first thing that is needed to do an iron bird challenge is to choose a safe route,
Understood.
because you need to make sure a route that is safe enough, which is big enough, and also straight, and too many things factors. There's no traffic, there's no city involved into that route, there's no limitations to that route. You can just go freely, and you can complete your journey safe and sound. That is the first thing, route. The second thing that we have to decide is the right time to do it, because I cannot do it on rains, because when it comes to rains, there's going to be a hell lot of problems. You have very less visibility that slows you down, and when you are slowing down, it's going to take a hell lot of time to complete a distance.
Understood.
So I cannot do it on rains, so I have to choose the right time, which was winter is the best time for
Best time.
riders. we
Ideal,
we
yeah.
call it the riders,
The riding season.
the riding season,
Yeah.
right? So I chose that. So for that, the first thing there, for the route, I chose the Mumbai to MP route, that which is until Guna, the safest route, straight patch with only one ghat in between, which is the Kasara. Right? People have done it. Lot many people have done from Mumbai, Ironbutt towards Bangalore, because that's the one straight patch that you can do. right? 1,000 kilometers like that from here to Pune, from Bangalore. Even the route from Karad until Bangalore is straight.
Straight. True.
No turns, no problems, no bad roads. Just keep
Straight.
riding.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. It's like a very boring road because I've done it and know it.
I mean, yeah, your playlist gets repeated.
Right. So that's when I chose
Sorry.
why I don't want to do that is because I have to take two ghats. One is Lonavala, one is Vaik, right? And when you go through Lonavala, it's narrow roads, again traffic. It's gonna be a problem for me because it's gonna slow me down.
True.
So I had to choose a route from which will not slow me down, and I also had to choose a time which will not slow me down anytime whenever I go and come. So there's two ways that you can do also. One is straight point A to point B, straight 1600 kilometers,
Wow.
which is actually the saddle story is known for 1,000 miles, right? Which is in 2 kilometers, 1600 kilometers.
Yep.
So what I chose is a, and you also have to do it from petrol pump to petrol pump. You cannot just start off from anywhere.
Oh.
There are factors that are
Yeah,
being
there's a smaller
considered
nitty-gritties
because you
basically,
get
yeah.
certification for it, right?
Yes.
You have to apply for the certification. So the procedure is you don't have to say anybody. You just choose a route, do your saddle sore, and prove and submit your proofs that this is what I've done. And that's how you get your certificates. So and the condition for doing that ride is you have to start from a petrol pump to a petrol pump
Oh.
because your ride gets jotted by the slip and the odor of your motorcycle. So you have to take pictures, proofs of it, geolocated photographs, so that you have to send it to the
The
authorities,
authorities basically.
the IB authorities. So you have to start from a petrol pump and go end up at a petrol pump. So you can do a straight route, point A to point B, or you can do a circular route, which is point A to point B and from point B to point A. There is one condition that you cannot do is like you cannot do point A to point B, which is 100 kilometers, and do 100 like that.
Okay. Not
You
like
cannot
a
do
repetitive
that.
ride. Understood.
You cannot do repetitive
It has
routes.
to be one journey.
One journey, or it can be a return journey. That's
Understood.
it. You cannot do again
You
the
can
same
overlap
route.
only once. You can return that same route.
You can
to
return the
finish your
same route
ride.
to finish your ride.
Understood.
So that's how. So we chose this ride to do the circular route,
Understood.
go to point A to point B, half the way, and return from there. So that was from the Bhiwandi petrol pump to Guna petrol pump, and from Guna petrol pump to Bhiwandi petrol
Bhiwandi
pump.
again.
So that's how the journey started. So we had to choose the right time, night 4 o'clock or morning 4 o'clock we started because that is the route.
Ideal time as well. Yeah.
Ideal time to go, and where we are starting is no traffic. It's not city. It's already a highway.
You're on the outskirts, yeah. Otherwise, you lose an hour or so getting out of the
Correct.
city.
That's how I planned my journey. And when I planned this, also my friend joined, and we both of us did it. Hats off to that guy who did it on a RR310.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it's a nice, comfortable motorcycle, but ergonomically, it's not the most suited.
Not
for-
suited for that long journey, right? We did it in 22 hours and 20 minutes.
Wow.
We started at 4 o'clock of 11th of Feb. We ended up at 2:10 at on 12th of Feb.
So there was no brakes. There was like
Only fuel breaks.
only few brakes.
So fuel breaks were the only
Sorry.
plan.
Okay.
So like we said, you do mentally prepare. That's what we prepared for. We'll take halts only at the fuel breaks. So
Okay.
for that, we prepared ourselves that when we take the fuel breaks, we eat a protein bar. That's what we carried. A bottle. That's it. But that did not go as we planned. So what happened is it was good winter, February. We started our ride at 4 o'clock. By the time we reached Nashik, it was almost 17 to 60 degrees.
Wow, that's cold. Yeah.
It was bad cold, and we had to take a halt because our hands were freezing. So our first halt was supposed to be a petrol pump, which we did not take. We took a break already before that, and then we decided even if we take an unplanned breaks, we make sure we take that only for 5 or 10 minutes max, because we cannot afford to waste time, right? Because you never know what happens. If there is a breakdown, there's a puncture, there's something, the motorcycle is overheating, so there could be anything. So we had to be assured that we do not waste time anywhere, and we had to keep buffer, because before we started, we have seen few people who have already done it. There's so many people who have done it in 20 hours, 21 hours. People have done it almost on the verge of 24 hours. There are people who have done it very too quick, but we knew that there could be breakdowns, so we had to be
Yeah,
prepared for
obviously,
it.
you prep yourself and the safest way around it. You just don't unnecessarily push yourself to the limit.
Correct.
So I think another question I'd want to ask is about touring. What is it that makes you do this? Is it the journey or is it the end point? What is it?
I There are two things. One is the adrenaline that I get by doing this, because I don't know, I feel a bit of happiness when I do that, when I travel with my motorcycle. About the destination, yeah, I keep thinking, okay, I want to see something new place. So destination is the second thing. The third thing is, during the travel, when you meet so many people,
True.
you take breaks, you get to know, okay, people around here are a little rude. People around here are very happy, very welcoming. People around here might be, little fluctuating. They might not address you the way they, because you're some
You're from
outside.
another state or something. Yeah, yeah. That
So there's
happens.
so
Yes.
many things, but that's okay. That's how you get to see people. You learn our culture. Like, India is diverse well
Right.
enough.
Yeah, yeah. True.
There's so many different kind of people. There's so many different kind of culture. You get to see that, and that's what makes us happy, right? The mood
Yeah,
is
like
the
they say, I
different
think so.
thing.
It's the Honda thing. You meet the nicest people on a motorcycle, like they say. So I get what you're saying in terms of exploring different states, meeting
Correct.
different people. I mean, yes, there is like a cold hot reception. So sometimes it's really cold. Sometimes it's people are very warm around you.
Yep.
So yes, that's one thing. And also, is it like once you're there, is it a certain joy that you get, or is it the pleasure of riding or having that journey to get to that point?
The journey is the biggest thing, to be very honest, because every journey is different.
It's different.
Like, I've ridden so many places right now. Every journey is not the same. It's been different every time. Rather that is the climate, rather that is the people around, rather that is the, the places around. Because traveling is fun. I don't know. I enjoy when I'm on my tours. I make sure after I reach the good highway, I cruise at one speed and I look around. I enjoy looking around.
Like it has to be scenic. You have to enjoy
Yes.
the ride more. Otherwise, it just like you're doing a point A to point B that could be also called as commuting. That's what we do every day. So get
Correct.
to point B
Correct.
as fast as you can. So lastly, I think I would want to ask you if say per se a person wants to start with touring, how he should take it up. Like this was an initial question as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you took 5 years to
Correct.
get to a point that you are mentally ready to do like a saddle sore.
Correct.
Okay. How do you take yourself one step at a time in terms of motorcycle, preps on the motorcycle, mental preps, and then take the big step?
So for me, the journey has been a quite simple one or an easy one, because I started with a group. I had people around, and I believe that is the best thing to do. You people do know, there are so many people who have started their riding journey by doing just solo, and they call them like, I'm solo rider. They have experienced themselves by facing their own problems, fixing them by themselves. But for me, I would rather say riding, starting and riding with a good bunch of people who are well, experienced enough, even though not well, who have done minimal or maximum. People who
So,
have
so say
experience at
mindset
least, yeah.
is important. Yeah.
Mindset is important, because there so many times on the motorcycles, you're on different motorcycle, I'm on different motorcycle. We are still a bunch of people who do not use intercoms. We still do hand signs, and we still understand each other by hand signs. So when you ride with people around, you usually don't speak, and there are situations where, there could be a point of debate that you said this, but no, I said this. There could be fight that could begin, but it's you individually who can understand. It's okay, because there are so many times, because of fatigue also, two fellow riders fight with each other.
True.
But one of them has to be good enough, and when I say one of them, it's always me. Like, if I am the one involved into that fight, I have to understand, okay, it's okay to it's okay to behave that way.
You
So
just have
that
to be calm
calmness
and
has to be,
understand the
yeah, calm and
situation.
understand the situation. Yeah,
Yeah.
there could be so many situations, but yeah.
So once you do that, I think so. Like you rightly said, you have to be in. It's one way of doing it, rather of being in a group. I think so. There's also a lot of comfort that
There's a lot of
I am
comfort.
with them. There is someone who's looking at me.
Correct.
There is a sweeper who's probably watching me.
Correct.
Although the guys ahead is gone, so I don't come under the pressure that oh, you know, I have to keep up with these boys. I have
Correct.
to keep up with these boys. And
Correct.
in that time is mostly when mishaps happen, which you
Mm-hmm.
don't want.
You're right.
So I think rather than, I talking from like listening to you is what I would prefer is then rather go out with a group or a small bunch of riders that I have a similar bandwidth
Similar
with,
bandwidth, yeah.
rather than starting out solo. And I don't want to be in a situation where I'm trying to explore the unexplored and then getting into a situation and then trying to fix.
Fix it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it
Because
could
they
be tricky.
it could be two. Either it could you can fix it, or it could get worse,
True.
right? So it's always good to ride with bunch of people, which gives you good comfort, because there's so many times they also teach you. If you have done something wrong, they will come and point at you. Okay, dude, that point off or that turn, you did not go it right. You did not do it right. You could have gone and crashed, or you could have done this wrong this way. So rather than doing that, do this. So there's a lot of teaching coming from them. So that helps. And then later, when you learn few things, you can try by yourself, and then you can go. Obviously, there's so many people doing it. Yeah.
True.
If you are strong enough and you are prepared to face any obstacles, you can go ahead and do it. There's no one you can stop.
So anything you want to say to people who want to do the saddle sore or something, like start touring long distances? Like, is there a message or is there like an advice that you'd want to give?
Uh, so talking about touring and saddle sore, again, like I said, they are not the
A
same.
sport versus
A
leisure,
sport versus is just an
like a
fun
leisurely activity.
leisure
Yeah,
activity, right?
with you.
So about saddle sore is the first thing that I would say out to any one of us. We shouldn't be doing it in influence of some big people, or in under influence of somebody else. Okay, karna, it's okay, you can do it. Don't go with that. Think yourself. Are you really prepared for it? Have you done? Think about, consider your own experience in the past rides. That how was I doing? How well was I doing? What problems did I face? What pains did I go through? So think about that and then decide. And about touring, if you want to enjoy, make sure you are safe and your people around you are safe. So you can plan accordingly. Take learning. There YouTube platform right now. There's so many people talking about touring. कि उन लोगों ने कैसे किया है, how they did it, where they stop, which is the good place to stop. There's so many learnings. You can just study. Learning is the key. I
So
would
I think
rather
I
say.
think I picked that word is plan. Either you can do either or, but you got to plan it right. If you plan it right, I think so. The journey is more enjoyable and
Right.
you're more relaxed rather than being in a situation where you'd be caught by surprise by something. So yeah, fair.
So plan goes with the discipline.
So I think rightly. So once you make a plan, you adhere to it,
Right.
and then you go forward. So it's a more predictable ride than
Right.
just being there out reckless, not knowing what to do in a situation. Yeah, it
Perfect.
just could be very disastrous.
Yeah.
So it was good speaking to Pritam.
Yeah.
We'll catch you on the next one.
See you. Stay tuned.